Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? I'm not going to be the one to do it. Things are going great. We got the golden age emerging out of all of the trouble we've been through in the past few years. We're going to talk about it all today. Good morning. I am here for the golden age, said Seaburger17. Welcome. You're in the golden age, everyone. We're going to enjoy it today. Good morning, Golden Age Engage, says Lee J369. Marvel hour in which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice come forth. They done good unto the resurrection of life, and they done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. John 5:28. We love it. Blessings, fellow Bampians, indeed. We golden. God sees and knows everything. Thanks for the blessings, Chef, says Seaburger17. Good morning, gang. T-Dog Yo-Yo. I'm still recovering from yesterday's triggering session. The Golden Gang. Yes, we triggered. Another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Good morning, Bitcoiners, and you too, Nolan, says Lance 2002. I think that means of panicans and plebs found RPTS of panicans and plebs found broken. Not sure what RPTS means, but I'll try and figure it out. Yo, Chatelet, Escape the Matrix 91. Good morning, Golden Gang. I like it. T-Dog, yo, as good as gold, but better. Sandek, good morning. I hope you're doing well. Chatelet, everyone, especially the fake spacers and doomers. We got to say hello to them too. We got some Cubs falling apart talk. The Cubs not doing great. Where's my old Cubs hat? It's around here. Serves them right for signing that cheater Bregman. Tell you, friend, they told me expressly. I don't care. There you go. Good morning, crew. Tell your friend, they told me expressly. There you go. Good morning, crew. The Mr. Rogers of Bitcoin. Indeed. I never feel bad for anyone in the AL East when they suck, except the Yankees. There you go. But yeah, we don't like them. Here's looking at you, filthy animals, says John Wayne. Showtime. And we're live. We are live indeed. We got some more talk. Bad news for the Cubs. The Panikin. The Panikin, yes. Panikin. We see. We're going to be talking. Video not synced, says Lee J. Video not synced today. Let me see if that is my fault or what I can do about it. 1 second. Let me just see where we're at. Let me mute this for 1 second. Thanks. Yeah, I thought I was good. I started watching and it looked like I was doing okay. Good morning, Maxie's Jesus is King, says Jeff Neubauer. Indeed, we'll put that up on the board. There we go. Indeed. Sun is up. Sun is up, everyone. Maximum sun tech here. We're doing great on the temperatures. We almost hit mid 80s yesterday here in Quebec. Global warming is coming for us. It was the hottest something, I'm sure, if you ever checked, the hottest Tuesday in May, where someone juggled and there was a hockey game in 45 years. That's what happened yesterday. So the sun, very operational here in Montreal. We love the operational sun. And Bitcoin is currently running at 75,000 US trash tokens. You can buy a Bitcoin. That's always running independent of price, of course. So there you go. Mike Boom is about to do a backflip now. Thanks, Lee J. It's already too hot in here. It's too hot. It is too hot. So we're doing great, everyone. Let us have a coffee and talk about all the stuff that's new. Lee J, my first story today, you're not going to like it. You're going to find out there's some trouble in your screwed up province, your crazy, stupid province, they say. Mental cases everywhere in your province. It's just not happening. We're going to talk about it. But first, I have one other story from Canada first. Of course, we were talking about the graves yesterday, right? We've been talking about the graves here. Hold on, let me get rid of that. We were talking about the mass graves that they were never able to find in Canada, the mass graves. That's our first NPC news story of the day. Let's see how things are going with the NPCs. It's not going great. It's really not going great. Now, what is going on? There we go. This is what we got, guys. So First Nations, they're decrying, right, the denialism on anniversary of suspected grave sites found at BC sites. The anniversary of, so you're not allowed to deny suspected grave sites. Suspected. No one ever found a single body. But denying, right, on anniversary. So what are we at? 5 years, I think it was 2021, where they found the grave sites. They suspect, yeah, exactly. May 27th, 2021. The Tukalamups Tikasikawa. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, everyone. I'm definitely not trying to make fun of an illiterate language trying to be put to Roman alphabets, as we see here, right? So I'm legitimately trying to pronounce this correctly because I would never want to insult the illiteracy of the First Nations. I am definitely trying to do this correctly. The Tecumloops Tiksequampakma First Nation, totally credible, has announced that ground penetrating radar had found more than 200 that penetrated with the radar. They had penetration and they didn't find it. What? A lone bouquet lays in front of the memorial amid ongoing soul searching and grave searching. There's a grave searching still going on. And what some First Nations leaders say is a wave of denialism about Indigenous suffering in residential schools. We still haven't found the bodies. A shocking discovery that never happened. Never happened. It never happened. Imagine writing a whole article like this for something that never happened. From that, people wanted to understand. They sure did. They wanted to understand. Yes, it revealed that through, though certainly schools today are teaching about residential schools, a lot of people nowadays don't much talk about it. The initial announcement by the Tecumloops to Sequapmuk said the radar provided a stark truth. The radar provided truth, everyone. Confirmation of the remains of the students were of the Kamloops residential school. But critics have been calling for exhumations to prove the graves were found. And the language used by First Nations leaders is now more equivocal. The Tecumloops Sequapmuk said in an update in February that signatures that resemble burials have been found, while other areas have been ruled out as burial sites. Uh-oh. To mark the 5-year anniversary of the 2021 announcement, it's the anniversary of an announcement of a thing that never happened. Very important stuff. The Powwow Grounds on Monday and took part in a march at the Powwow Grounds. The nation had started a day of reflection and sacred fire and smoke, traditional stuff. What about the greenhouse gas emissions, guys? Can't you natives do some ceremony without contributing to global warming? Is that too much to ask? Can't you participate in the Green New Deal? Does that not apply to you? No, I guess not. That's okay. Though the ceremony was closed to the public, members have been dressed in regalia or in orange. We love that. There you go. The color used to honor Indigenous children who attended residential schools. There you go. But it's decrying residential school denialism. There you go. You got some denialism, right? He said the nation is still working to highlight the legacy, right? But no word here about the bodies. We never talked about the bodies. We don't need to. It's so stupid. It's not bother. Oh, dang, I wasn't sharing the article. There you go. This was the article the whole time, guys. So there you go. The smoke could be seen billowing from the powwow ground. Nolan, on those, I think you need more coffee, champ. I'm not doing great on the pronouns. Sorry, guys. We need more coffee. Radar, 100%. Exactly. 100%. Now we get this. This is the one I was referring to for Lee J369. You wouldn't believe this, but Alberta's secession referendum is unlike others in democratic countries across the world, experts say. So what's different about your secession movement, right? So Alberta's secession movement is unlike other separatist efforts in democratic countries across the world, experts say. Those outside of Canada, including ones that led to the 2014 referendum on Scottish independence and the 2017 vote on the district people of Catalonia should leave Spain, all have similar characteristics. Significant secession movement starts with nationhood. The idea that members of this movement don't consider themselves to be members of the nation that is embodied in the state. Typically, we got Andre Lecour. He's a political science professor at the University of Ottawa. Wow. Typically, you have an objective cultural marker behind it. Religion, language. You stupid losers in Alberta. No cultural markers. What did we tell you? You have no culture, scumbags. He said that these characteristics are non-existent. You losers, you can't have a country. You have to be robbed. You don't have, you don't, if you don't have a cultural marker, you are free game to be robbed, okay? You're not allowed to negotiate. You don't have your own language. What about Tukabaluk Sukalakapaka? Why don't you borrow that language? You could just slap a little Roman alphabet on it. That's fine, right? Belief in a different genealogy. Where's your genealogical beliefs, Alberta, you losers? And you never had a previous independent existence. You dumb idiots thinking you can have a country without those things, sitting here complaining about being robbed. What's the matter with you? You don't have a cultural marker. You need cultural markers, okay? Otherwise, shut your mouths, stupid people. He said these characteristics are non-existent in Alberta separatists. You have no case. Give up. Give up. Who Premier Daniel Smith has said have a decade-long list. You just have resentments. All right? I get it. You don't want to be robbed. I get it. But go out and get a religion and some language, even though the people criticizing you also have no religion. That's not your problem, okay? Or sorry, that's not their problem. That's your problem. Figure it out, right? Whether these beefs are worth quitting Canada for will be tested on October 19th referendum, when Albertans will be asked whether they want to remain in Canada or start the process to hold a binding referendum on separation. It's time to have a vote, understand the will of Albertans on this subject, and move on. But he said the referendum is piece of professor, and even he can't understand it. It's puzzling. These stupid people without any cultural markers, right? There's no significant secession movements that hinge on the fiscal and economic grievances. It's an outlier. Yeah, it's an outlier. It's a moving target, you dumb people. The last time Alberta's separatist movement saw a significant boom was in the 80s, Bratt said. Is this a new expert? I hope so. There we go. She's enabled them. The difference today is it's her fault. Smith is enabling these no-cultured losers thinking they can have their own country. Why don't you act like the Scottish people, right? Smith negotiates with them, changes legislation. There you go. Look what she did. Look at what she did. She changed legislation. Can you believe it? To make it easier for the population to have their say. Unreal. Unreal. In Alberta, regional grievances are playing out rather than an underlying nationalism, as you see in Quebec or another place. The Quebec nationalist movement began to question the place of Quebec in Canada, whether or not Canada was fair to French Canadians. That's okay, right? Alberta is just fascinating. Right? It's just fascinating. It's unseen. I've heard of that. Of people who don't identify with a nation different from the country they live in would want independence. It's just, it just makes no sense, right? It makes no sense. So as we talked about all this no culture stuff, I had a video that I wanted to put further into the list, but I'm going to bring it up now because all of this talk about Alberta with no culture, this is a place with no culture. And look what they did yesterday, these cultureless buffoons, right? This is yesterday in Alberta. Look at these scumbags with with no culture. What these people are doing, right? And they want to have a country. Look at this. Look at these stupid. Look at that. Look at these cultureless losers. Anyone in Ontario can do this. No problem. No problem. That's Alberta. Yeah. I was going to play that later, but it's too good. It's too good. So that no culture. You stupid Albertans, give up. You're never going to have a country with no culture like that. Right? No culture. Can't do it. Not going to happen. So there you go. That's what we got. I got all these some look articles. Get rid of those. So that's what we got. That's what we got. That's what's happening in Canada. We'll cover more Canada stuff later. That's for sure. Now let's get back to a little weather news, guys. I got bad news for you on the U.S. coasts. Scientists warn that the Thwaites, don't wait on Thwaite. Get off the U.S. coasts. The Thwaites collapse could reshape the U.S. coastline. Apparently, there's a glacier collapse risk, right? This is not the doomsday one. I think it's some other one. But experts say this one, Thwaites Glacier, is on the cusp of collapse, potentially triggering massive long-term sea level rise. The maps show I thought we put these motherfuckers out of business. How do they keep showing us maps and data? Get out of here, NOAA. I thought you were dead. A 3-meter rise, guys. For you people who don't know metric, it's going to go up by 12 feet. The coastline's going up by 12 feet. There's no more Manhattan, everyone. Sorry. I thought you liked Manhattan. Too bad. Thwaites Glacier is coming, guys. Move now. Don't wait on Thwaite. Get out. Study finds reduced low cloud cover and sea ice could sustain high sea levels for centuries. Centuries. We're never getting it back. We're never getting it back, guys. It's coming. It is coming, guys. We're never going to survive this. And if that's not bad enough, right? We got all this climate trouble, but wait till you see what's happening because of the climate trouble. Antibiotics aren't working. It's too hot. Climate crisis is accelerating antibiotic resistance across the world, a study says. Experts say climate change linked to 10% rise in salmonella. Salmonella loves the climate crisis, everybody. That should be a sign. That should be a sign. It's been antibiotic resistance genes between 1940 and 2023. They gave up. You just kept driving your car, and the antibiotics were like, God, these car driving, emission spewing humans. We can't protect them anymore. We quit. We quit. They're quitting. The antibiotics are out. They're out. We get this. What'll this do to the antibiotics, right? Scientists have scrapped the worst case climate scenario because action is making a difference, everyone. Action is making a difference. What's the difference, right? How are these scenarios made? We don't know. Why all the fuss about that but going away? Skeptics, they're acting in bad faith. Look at this. We're clearly all the restrictions and the NAC is working, and Greta is all working. And meanwhile, Trump's not even admitting to it, right? He's just saying he's denying, right? Yes, it is progress, guys. It is progress. Taking RCP 8.5 off the table is a sign of progress. Wait till you hear about the Thwaites, guys. Thwaites. I told you, we just heard about the Thwaites Glacier. We have worst case scenarios back on the board. It's back on the menu. We missed the best case future. We've missed the best case future, guys. We have no best case future. It's too hot. It's too hot. We're done with that. And like I said, it's too hot. Europe's sizzling heat, guys. Europe sizzling heat. Look at this in Europe. In Europe. Can you believe that Italy? I'm almost in shock. Can you believe that it's 90s, close to 100 degrees in Italy? I know. Who would have thought? Governments and national authorities have issued warnings about high temperatures, the record-smashing heat wave plaguing Western Europe. is a brutal reminder of the cost of global warming. The United States climate chief has warned. Look at this. France has reported several heat-related deaths. The deaths are back in Europe. It's in the 90s, everybody. We'll see if they agree to putting in air conditioning. I doubt it. They prefer living this way. The scientific consensus. We have a vote in science. New truths coming in. The heat waves are becoming hotter, longer, and more frequent due to human-caused climate change, noted Simon Steele from the UN. It's a brutal reminder, everybody. Climate-driven heat wave is double jeopardy at a time when the latest war in the Middle East, and think about the emissions in the war in the Middle East, right, is showing the soaring costs of depending on fossil fuel imports. Wow, really not going great over there. Hot, no oil, expensive gas. Oh my God, look at this, guys. Whoa, it is actually going to hit the high 80s in Brussels by Friday. Brace yourselves. Brace yourselves, everyone. The high 80s incoming in Brussels. And of course, we see the record heat has the fingerprints of climate change all over it. Their fingerprints are everywhere. The Thwaites Glacier, all of it. We see it now. So much heat. Look at this. Biarritz, good thing they're on the ocean. And it's a good thing they're on the ocean. They got right of the 90s. Is climate change behind Europe's sweltering May temperatures? Countries are the hardest hit. Right? How can Europeans deal with extreme? Oh, finally, we got this. Thank God we got this. We don't know. How do you deal with heat? They don't have air conditioning over there. What's the answer? It's home to the world's most extensive climate shelters. You can go to a climate shelter and they have air conditioning and seats, free seats in Europe. No way. And near 400 climate shelters in Barcelona, Bucharest. So you got climate shelters. Thank God. They've been preparing for rising temperatures in Paris. So they have heat trapping streets into a green oasis. And what else do we got? How else can we survive? I need to know. Tropical nights are now routine in Southern Europe. Right? Urge authorities to stop treating heat planning as reactive or buy an air conditioner. A lot of help can happen from buying an air conditioner. We'll see if they do it. And then finally, I have this one. Is audio breaking up? Let me know if the audio is breaking up. We got this one finally, the last one. This is from the Financial Times. Here they say both men gambled on a weak adversary and assume victory within days. Each is burdening their countries with costs that will persist many years after they have lost power. So the London-based Financial Times here reminding us that, Trump and Putin are just, who cares? They're the same thing. They're losers, super losers. Not going to work out. So there you go. Those are our NPC news stories of the day. Yep, a little. So the audio is breaking up apparently. Oh no. It is. 1 second. I'm going to have a sip of coffee and then we're going to get into the news. It's clipping. You're saying the audio is clipping. Okay, let me look. Maybe my gain is really high. I don't think that's it. Let me turn off the mic and back on, and we'll see how that goes. Let me know if that worked. Let me see if that worked. Okay. If not, I don't really have a lot of tricks up my sleeve here. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Not choppy here. Okay. I'm only hearing very occasional static. I'm not sure. Okay, well, we're going to start today by looking a little into Abraham Accords, what's going on with China in particular. Lots of people talking about China today, and I have some pretty interesting takes. It looks like Balaji got himself into a bit of a tussle online, and I don't think it's going to work out for Balaji, actually. But let's see how. It's likely the heat. Yeah, that's what we'll do it. Nolan, out of tricks. Put your sound engineer hat on. Shut the fuck up. CB Van. We're not a sound engineer. All right. So the first note I have, again, going back to that Abraham Accords thing yesterday, I wanted to read one of the better threads I had on it, which comes from Balaji Kerfuffle. Yeah, you're going to see it in a second. You're going to see the Balaji Kerfuffle in a second. Let's talk about it. But first, let's go back to the Abraham Accords piece. I wanted to read the Tanvi Ratna thing because first of all, she's great. I thought she's had a lot of really good takes on this war in Iran. And she, without going hard on the City of London stuff like I do, she sees the things pretty similarly in terms of incentives and who's winning and what's going on and what the important stories are without having to resort to the pure financial flows. So that's why I appreciate it, because you got to ward against your own confirmation bias, especially in this war. And I try to do that as best I can without going into doomerism too much. But I definitely try to take all kinds of points of view that don't come from the chicks at the Promethean Action, who I love, right? But because I agree with them, that's why I love the content. So it's important to go out of your way to look for people who are seeing it from a slightly different point of view. And she does. I think she's got a really good take on this stuff. So here she says, the most obvious Trump endgame in the Middle East, I laid it out 2 months ago. A settled Middle East is integral to Trump's new order, but requires Saudi-Israel rapprochement and Israel's integration into regional security. So what I've been saying about Israel more or less being given to Saudi Arabia and the neighbors, this is sort of in line with that. And I think that's what's happening. So here in 2020, the world was stunned at the development of the Abraham Accords. For the first time, it brought Israel, which has always been on the outside of the Arab world, into a framework with the rest of the region. It missed one critical regional power, Saudi Arabia. Again, from day one of the conflict in Iran, I said Abraham Accords are holding. They might even grow as a result of this conflict, and that looks like it's what's happening. Trump going for a growth in this at the end here. Then in 2026, Trump brought the region into a surprising peace deal again over Gaza. That would be 2025. Therein launched the Board of Peace, which was about construction, but was architecturally an expanded Abraham Accords. Remember, the Board of Peace is all about integrating these parts of the world into any part of the world into commercial agreements, which preclude any ability to fight after, because fighting yourself, in a sense, has to be part of the price because of the commercial integration. So hurting a commercial trade partner ends up hurting yourself in this way. Check the roster of countries that had joined. Israel, along with the original Abraham Accords member UAE, but also Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Qatar. It appeared as if the architecture was coming to fruition until the Gaza deal frayed and public opinion turned within Saudi Arabia. A conducted survey on public opinion in Saudi Arabia in August 2025 showed that over 80% of Saudis were strongly against normalization with Israel. The Palestine statehood question got prioritized again by Saudi Arabia, and the Board of Peace stalled by 2025, December. Enter the Iran strikes of February 2026. In a blog mere days later, I'd said the Iran war was the catalyst to push through the unfinished global reordering Trump had initiated, not just in the Middle East, but globally, because Iran cut through every layer of this reordering. So we all looked at this map from the very beginning. We've paid attention to Tanvi Ratna several times, by the way. In March 2026, I explained how Iran was a pressure campaign to break the old Middle East stalemate by forcing the Iran axis, fragmented Sunni field, and Israel into a new alignment where incentives are tied together. You can read it here. This is the Substack that she wrote. Since then, the realignment has become clearer. An Israel, UAE, India axis rising, Saudi influence narrowing, and Saudi, UAE, and Iran possibly long-term jostling for supremacy. I wouldn't put UAE into that group. I would say Iran and Saudi. Now Trump is asking the same architecture again, Israel plus key Middle Eastern powers. This isn't sudden, desperate ask for a deal. It's the same position Trump has pursued since 2020. Many global reorderings from Iran are already unpacked in my Substack. So it is all about reordering. I do think that the reordering is important. And importantly, you can now measure the reordering from outside of this region. The China story is big. And the China story continues to be one of the most important ones out there. And so the reordering, though, goes through energy. It goes through these new regions that we're hearing so much about, China being one, Russia being one. And these regions, of course, have their own energy needs, energy uses. And so it's a big part of what's going on with this shift and with this change. And so after the trip that Trump took to China last week, we can see a lot of this stuff starting to take place and take shape. Here you see the actions that have taken place just in the last few days with Marco Rubio surrounding China surrounding China physically, going to India, going to the Philippines, going to New Delhi. And here you can see some of the results that came from that. 48 hours, 2 capitals, 4 moves. Beijing just walked into its own trap, according to Arik Chen here, saying within 48 hours of the leak that exposed Xi Jinping's failed ambush on President Trump, 4 democracies launched a powerful, synchronized counteroffensive aimed squarely at Beijing's coercion campaign. On May 26th, the international response was swift and tightly coordinated across 2 capitals. Here, New Delhi, Tokyo. On the sidelines, Rubio and Motegi publicly reaffirmed peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Again, Taiwan is going back to China, whether we like it or not, it doesn't really matter. But again, my thoughts on that are that it will change China and the CCP more than it will change Taiwan in the long run. So we'll talk about that in a second. The harder Beijing pushes, the faster and tighter the counter architecture arrives. 4 moves, 2 capitals, 1 morning. Read the full strategic breakdown below to see exactly how Beijing just walked into its own traps. He wrote this yesterday. Pretty interesting look into how things are going and what is up with China. Here, Sightbringer points out from this Kobayashi letter that things are not all as they seem in China. And this is why I don't worry at all about the Taiwan situation in the long run, because the vulnerabilities of China itself are becoming more and more obvious. Here, the Kobayashi letter says China is seeing massive capital outflows. An estimated 1 trillion US trash tokens in capital flowed out of China in 2025, the largest annual outflow since records began in 2006. Here, Sightbringer says China's private capital is trying to leave the regime before the regime fully closes the door. That is the real signal. Capital does not flee because a chart looks bad. It flees because people with money no longer trust the future claim attached to the system. They do not trust the currency. They do not trust the property market. They do not trust policy stability. They do not trust private enterprise protection. They do not trust the equity market. They do not trust their wealth will remain movable, protected, and politically safe. That is a belief breakdown. The state can still command factories, banks, police, courts, ports, platforms, and capital accounts. It can produce GDP. It can subsidize strategic sectors. It can dominate supply chains. It can mobilize AI talent. It can build hard. It can build hard. I gotta shut this off. It can build hard infrastructure at astonishing speed, but private wealth is telling the truth and the official data tries to manage. The Chinese system no longer feels like a safe place to store optionality. The word matters. Optionality. Rich Chinese families want Singapore, Hong Kong channels, US equities, offshore brokers, gold, dollars, foreign real estate, children abroad, passports, corporate structures, crypto where possible. They are not only seeking returns, they are seeking exits. Capital flight is not just financial movement, it is elite preparation. Beijing's response confirms the fear. Restrictions on offshore accounts Forced liquidation timelines, penalties on brokers, tighter cross-border controls. These are signs of a state protecting the vessel from internal leakage. Same arc, new phase. The old China story was growth absorbing control. The new China story is compensating for lost trust. This is a huge shift. The property boom created household wealth. The export machine created national power. The party state created stability. For years, these forces reinforced each other. Now property is broken. Demographics are hostile. Youth employment is weak. Private entrepreneurs are cautious. Foreign investors are skeptical, and geopolitics keeps pushing capital to price China as a strategic risk jurisdiction. So the state tightens. But every tightening creates the next layer of distrust. When citizens see exits closing, the desire to exit becomes almost more urgent. When private wealth sees capital controls rising, it stops asking where is the best return and starts asking where can wealth still breathe. That is the doom loop of controlled capital systems. The yuan is the pressure valve. If Beijing lets it fall too much, confidence weakens and outflows intensify. If Beijing defends it too hard, liquidity tightens and growth suffers. If Beijing blocks outflows, trust deteriorates. If Beijing allows outflows, reserves and domestic asset confidence get hit. There is no clean path because the problem is trust, not plumbing. And that's a big statement because here's another video yesterday that came from the Patrick O'Shaughnessy podcast about China and trust and how vulnerable China really is. So I'll play this so you can hear the audio because it's a really excellent clip. And Patrick O'Shaughnessy, I knew him from the old days in New York when I lived in New York. He was a speaker at an event I put on in 2017. He did a big series on Bitcoin, and interesting guy. So I've got to hang out with him. He was a great speaker. He actually hosted the speakers dinner the year I had that event. So here he is. He's interviewing this fella here. I'll tell you who he is. Decoter is a well-regarded historian, Darren Decoter, on China and has a theory on how China is not a superpower just by virtue of how illegitimate and weak it is. And here he talks all about trust and its own weaknesses. So I'll play this.
China, and has a theory on how China is not a superpower just by virtue of how illegitimate and how weak it is and how tense the plenary and the party is. And he has good points. The Chinese equivalent of the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff has disappeared. He went to kindergarten with Xi Jinping. Like, these guys are close. And so when you have power and you ascend to power in a fundamentally illegitimate structure, who do you trust? The answer is no one. You're constantly worried that someone's going to put a bullet in the back of your head. And then that form of illegitimacy cascades down through the immediate organs of that government to include its military. They have turned over their senior military leadership like 3 or 4 times in the last 3 years. That is not a high trust environment, but their magazine depth industrially is so enormous. So the calculus becomes, can the magazine depth overcome their institutional weakness? But the illegitimacy of the Chinese, fundamentally an illegitimate power, is also our advantage. And we are making enormous strides in the clandestine services of co-opting that environment. Xi doesn't know who's on our side in his standing committee or on his side. Every day he wakes up with the thought of, maybe I need to kill someone off. That is our edge. Our edge is that he is fundamentally illegitimate, the monopoly of power that is communism. Our ability to recruit and retain and train, it had really degraded, and we had lost a lot of capability through a series of assets that were caught, but we have rebuilt that in a very meaningful way.
We had one guy got caught.
These government agencies that where everyone goes into work every day, Monday to Sunday, and their job is, how am I going to infiltrate this illegitimate political structure for the purposes of making it weak? And I don't think Xi sleeps well at night. We have weaknesses, but we also have enormous strengths, and their weaknesses are also enormous. It doesn't mean that they can't bring us to the precipice. Their mass is so much greater than us, right? Like their population size and what they can do industrially.
Is that even true?
They are fundamentally strong and weak at the same time. We can hold both of those in the same vessel. I believe in our lifetime, China will fall.
That I've been saying that from the beginning. So I do believe that Taiwan goes back to China, but not the CCP. Not the CCP. Even if the CCP gets it for a minute through whatever is going on in the world, I don't believe in the end they're going to actually make it there. I do believe in the end that China swallowing Taiwan is a choke on the bone situation, and they won't be able to handle it. They're too weak to handle that kind of Americanism. And all we'd have to do in the end over there is give them their Second Amendment rights on our let them have it. There you go. Here, get your guns in Taiwan. As a memory of the time when you were an American, I don't know what, protected state, and take that with you as your legacy. And that would be the end of that. I don't think they'd be able to figure anything out. They would just continue in their flat-footed way of dealing with that country. So there you go. So this guy Darren Decatur is not. It's him quoting Decatur. I thought that was his name. His name is actually Darren Farber. And so again, go back to what I was saying about the economics here and the new system that we were talking about with Tanvi Ratna, and think of China's weakness, and then put that in the context of this note from Trump yesterday, which was about the CFTC and Bitcoin. And here he's trying to defend prediction markets, and here saying it's critically important that the CFTC's exclusive authority over prediction markets is maintained and that they will thrive under my leadership. We are setting rules of the road that are the gold standard for the United States. We cannot have scum like Chris Christie, Letitia James, Tim Waltz, and JB Pritzker setting the rules. Our countries are after this new form of financial market, and we want to remain at the top. Likewise, and even more importantly, where we are currently the crypto Bitcoin capital of the world. Other countries are trying diligently to replace us in that capacity. That, of course, would be China, but we won't let that happen. Now, I really don't believe so. I don't care about the prediction market stuff or CFTC jurisdiction and all of that. But here, looking at this argument that China is trying to replace us, to me, it just doesn't make sense because they don't have trust domestically. How could they possibly create something internationally when we're getting to a point where energy is going to require, and this is where the bimetallism is going to come in. People aren't even going to trust the US dollar when it comes to energy. We need pricing, we need price discovery, we need global markets that are no longer tethered to a state. And part of what Trump is creating by unleashing Bitcoin in the way that he is, by integrating the Federal Reserve into the Treasury, by reawakening this American system, we're going to see the American system and the American dollar used more domestically, but internationally, you can see right away we're moving to something that looks a lot more like the bimetallism of Bitcoin, with Bitcoin headed straight for the energy industry. When you look at all of that confusion going on in the Middle East, when you look at China, when you look at all the mistrust that is still in the system that isn't going to get out of the system, the way the world settles after all of this is going to be very different than the World War II consensus with all of these institutions that were there to help people work together. We're not going to have any of those anymore. They've all completely trashed their reputations. They're all complete and total dog shit, which means, and then the BRICS thing's not going to work, right? The BRICS thing you just heard from China, Russia is going over to the US dollar settlement. You're going to see that. So we're going to need this Bitcoin function, especially in energy pricing, which is exactly how we create the two-tiered bimetallic world. And you've even got Elon Musk here today quoting quoting Milton Friedman talking about Murray Rothbard and Hayek about pricing. And so this is where
one thing Mises said is that
this is where you get Elon Musk at today talking about pricing and how it's so important to have pricing and price discovery, particularly in energy, that energy is the most important part. The Austrian school understood this decades before the collapse of the Soviet bloc, proved it in practice. Rational economics requires genuine market prices emerging from voluntary exchange and private property. Half measures don't stabilize the system. They accelerate the drift into central planning. This is why China simply cannot compete with what America is building, because America is relinquishing its centralized control over this stuff. That's the cost of doing business. They just think they're going to win the new era, and that's what you see Trump doing. And so here in this video, I will play it because it's interesting to hear about these prices and price discovery and how important it is. And this is coming from the Elon Musk account, so we're already getting, kind of millions and millions of views this morning of people talking about this stuff, which is what you want, right?
One thing that Mises said is that the only reason why socialism works at all right now is because there's a world market out there where they can refer to the prices. It works very badly.
That's
Rothbard. But at least there's a world market that can say, okay, the price of steel is such and such, or cement, or whatever. And a noted English economist visited Poland in the 50s. He asked the Polish economist, that's at the time when central planning had hit its stride, and the Polish communist economist admitted that they refer to the world market. That's how they can do anything. And so this economist said, well, look, if socialism takes over the whole world, which you're presumably in favor of, what would you do then? Well, there is no market left. He said, well, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. I got a great answer. Anyway, so Mises showed in the early 1920s that socialism can't calculate, and that's what converted Hayek, by the way. Hayek had been a socialist before that, read the book, and he was converted to free market. And then he showed that interventionism doesn't work either, because interventionism, for example, has a cumulative effect. Price controls don't work, taxes cripple savings and investment, etc. And each intervention sets the conditions up for another intervention to try to cure that, and that doesn't cure that, but creates conditions for more intervention, etc., until you wind up with socialism, which doesn't work either. So what we had then was as a result of all this, a carefully built, constructed case for why the market works and why government doesn't work.
So that's why America and Trump abdicating a ton of control by embracing Bitcoin, but believing they can win the Wild West game of energy production is really what you're seeing. You're seeing America bet on energy production, not building trust in the system or anything like that. That's why when you think about all of these agents and who's operating, and Adam Townsend, because we're in a zero trust environment, like zero trust, right? We're not in a high trust environment. China failing from trust, America betting on low trust, but systems that don't require trust, like Bitcoin, particularly in the energy industry, and betting that they're going to win this fight. And just seeing all of this and seeing that as a race, and again, going back to the frame I've been using for a long time, the G's versus the all I's versus the ables, and seeing who is sort of winning here. And I've been making the case every day, of course, that the ables are winning, heavily influenced by the American contingent as part of the ables. But here you got a very interesting fight yesterday, and it's been going on for 2 days. It's between Balaji and Roman Helmet Guy. Now, I've known Balaji for a long time. I always thought there was some weird distance between him and I. He was never really willing to help me with anything. I still like him. I still think he's very interesting. We're dealing with one of the highest IQ people in the world. But for a while now, Adam Townsend has been coming around and saying that Balaji, without naming names, is an agent for China. And he has been picking up on Balaji's talking points, his frameworks for a few years now, saying that this guy is more or less scum, and that his shorting of America in all of these ways is somewhat influenced, I guess. I'm not sure why he would need the money. I think Balaji's done very well. So I don't know really what's going on here, but when I start to see things like this, right, so here's Roman Helmet Guy. They're having this big fight about tech bros, and here's none of what you're saying supports your conclusions. If China could really shut off the U.S. military, then of course China and the U.S. will go to war. It's just that China would win, and your little internet cities would be at its mercy. He's talking about his internet cities and talking about all the stuff that I like. I do believe we're headed to more city states and network states, so I still believe all of that. So here in Boston wasn't a city state. It was part of the colony of the British Empire. To gain independence, it had to team up with other colonies and create a huge nation state. So he does say here that, of course, that America is losing the war to Iran. He says that. Where is it? He says they're losing. Where does he say it here? He says, so this fight has been going on, like I said, for a while, right? So it starts there. And Roman Helmet Guy, do you have anyone around you that you trust to tell you you've gone insane? I'm sure the printout, the internet sounds cool if you were high. But what you're actually talking about is just starting some small city-states around the world. These city-states would be wiped off the map if digital nomads and all you digital nomads killed the second a superpower decides you're inconvenient. For example, didn't you flee to Singapore? You think that makes you safe from what happens in America? You're sitting on the Strait of Malacca. If China and the US go to war, control of that strait will be crucial. You'll spend the last year of your life crying in a bomb shelter until you're captured and disappeared by the winner for your subversive beliefs. And then he says, so US is made in this. So he says, where does he say? You can simply turn off the Republican military. You can't fight your factory. The whole defense industrial buildup to fight China is essentially a LARP. Blah, blah, blah. So this fight goes on for a while. It's why the war in Iran should never have been fought. The Republicans should have instead spent their political capital quietly building. That could be true. I don't deny that. But again, I take it from the point of view that they're trying to get away from London city stuff. So you never hear Balaji talk about that at all. I don't know if he doesn't know about it, doesn't think about it. I'm not sure what the problem is here exactly. But here he goes on about it. But now even neocons like Kagan are acknowledging total defeat. Total defeat. So after the defeat in Iran, it's unlikely there is war with China. However, similar to how the post-Soviet Russia got into fights with its neighbors, like the Chechens and Ukrainians, the post-imperial America will probably get much more involved in Latin America. That's true. So he's right about that. Here he's talking about city-states, which is not really the case. Anyway, in the end, Balaji has to resort to you're underemployed and I'm sorry you're poor. I wish the best for you, which is a great way to frame things, right? So I think Balaji here, what does he say here? You were extremely focused on the security piece, which is why. Third world is slop. China's always expanded to the maximal extent possible. Grok says Roman won. So anyway, remember Townsend has been saying for a while that Balaji is an agent. John Conrad comes out as well here and goes after Balaji for this. Actions, not words, Balaji. Go to any fishing village in the Philippines, look at the economic ruin, look at the CCP Coast Guard water cannons that make Birmingham 1963 look like kids with super soakers. Look at the dredges building PLA bases in their backyard. And here's what he's saying. Your TikTok videos are entertaining. You're a smart guy. This is what he says to Roman Helmet Guy. But you're underemployed relative to your talents. And I genuinely wish you only the best, he says. So, Ryan Selka says, I'm arguably one of the most right-wing docs tech accounts on the site, but I don't think Balaji is a good target. He's always walked the walk and has never force-fed Americans with their own culture on mass immigration. One of the top free speech plus crypto advocates as well. Yeah, I do believe that about Balaji. But again, if he's working as an agent, as you hear from Adam, we got to know, right? So hopefully we find out. Again, I remain always curious about what Balaji says. I've always found something a little strange because, again, he had literally zero time. Maybe my ideas were just no good. But as an overt Trump supporter in the first campaign, I reached out to him a few times, and I only ever got traction with him when it came to crypto marketing stuff and events. And now he does his own events, so he doesn't even get back to me. So I don't want to bring my own problems with Balaji or lack of Balaji's interest in my work, which is a personal insult to me, right? So I don't want to bring that into the account here. So put that aside. I just want to be upfront with it to say that it's there. So I don't want that clouding my view. I stay similar to what Selkis is saying here, but I'm a big fan of Adam Townsend. And if Adam Townsend is telling me that Balaji is an agent, and that worse than being an agent, that he duped Scott Adams, that's one of Balaji's frames, right? That Balaji, sorry, that's one of Adam Townsend's frames, that Balaji that duped Scott Adams about COVID, and then all of Scott Adams' COVID mistakes were from Balaji. I was in communication with Balaji at the beginning of COVID as well, because he was on the board of the consensus event and was telling us our event was going to be canceled. So I was getting intel from him as well. But apparently he went in Scott Adams' house and helped, educate people on how to handle COVID stuff. Some people say on behalf of China. So I don't know. I'm just letting you know that this fight, and having seen it provoke Balaji to use the frame that China is winning, that does suggest that what Adam Townsend is talking about is true. Adam, I think is a pretty credible guy. Again, another one of the folks that Scott Adams would have used. So that's what makes it interesting, because Scott Adams used both Adam Townsend and Balaji very regularly for his own predictions and frameworks and everything like that. So seeing this fight between the two of them, I hope Adam comes out. He's never actually named Balaji by name as the rat that he suspects he is. It's simply me that has put it together that when he goes after all of this, and there's even rumors that Cernovich is also gearing up with Townsend to uncover and unmask the big VC China guy. So don't know, but it looks like that is what is coming. We'll see. But indeed, the demoralization campaign that he might be on, China is going to win, America is screwed, the Republican Army lost in Iran, all of this stuff. Walter Kern says here, short the demoralization campaigns. They're running them for a reason. The big scam is on the ropes. Frontiers are opening everywhere. And that's what I'm seeing, that these demoralization campaigns are just going absolutely nowhere. And there's all kinds of work to uncover them. This is one story where some of them got uncovered. I don't know if you caught this, but there was a leaker game here played by the Trump White House. Apparently, that's what people say. Trump yesterday saying he was going to go to Camp David to make a rare presidential retreat, weather permitting, and it turns out that it was just a scam to catch leakers, because the news immediately went out with Trump to make rare Camp David trip. Trump hates Camp David, by the way. It's not fancy. It's a dump, he says. So apparently the cabinet meeting, due to weather, was immediately moved back to the White House. So we're going to get one of those cabinet meetings today where everyone goes around and chats, which will be a lot of fun. But apparently it was to catch some of the leakers. So maybe that'll ward off some demoralization campaigns. Speaking of demoralization campaigns, here's where the demoralizers are left. We got Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is going on the ballroom talking points now. He's pivoting. Everyone said, wait till we see what Thomas Massie does with his last 6 months as a member of Congress. What is he going to do? He's going to go, look what he did already on the Epstein files. Look what he did. All right. So what does he do now that he's a lame duck congressman with nothing to lose and can spend all his time going after the big fish? He's pivoted to the ballroom. He's going with the ballroom. He's going with the ballroom story. The ballroom is such an egregious waste of money. So he's pivoting now to being a ballroom denier. He doesn't like the ballroom. And, if you know, the ballroom is basically the stupidest line of attack on Trump you could ever take, and biggest waste of time. So more demoralization campaigns from Massie. It's a zero. It's not going to work. But speaking of fun campaigns, right? Did you see this? They're getting ready for the desecration of the White House. the dignity of the office. We're going to have a UFC fight, and so that's not going to demoralize. And I didn't know this. Apparently, one of the spiritual inheritors of Trump, being Andrew Jackson. You know what Andrew Jackson did? This picture here is about that. Apparently, he aged a big block of cheese for like 2 years in the White House. And on his last days in the office, he invited all of DC. So, by the way, when in the old days, DC was a really small town, and regularly on the weekends, it was open to the public. You can go into the White House, and Abraham Lincoln used to have it open to the public regularly. The yard used to be filled with World War II Civil War casualties, like maimed officers and stuff. But even before that, Andrew Jackson here had a 1,400-pound block of cheese that he left to age in the White House lobby for 2 years. And when he left office, he invited thousands of citizens to come and have a cheese-eating party. And they consumed the whole block in 2 hours. So this is the kind of dignity we used to have at the White House. And now we're on our way back to UFC fights. Oh, no. So indeed, the demoralization campaigns, they've pivoted to Trump's spectacle on the White House is going to be boring, and the ballroom is now where Massey finds himself. And you're not going to hear the demoralizers and the panicans talk about this. So yesterday we had a bunch of primaries in the United States. So Trump went, I think, he ran the board again, complete and total win on all of the primaries. And here's one you'll never hear from the panicans and the demoralizers. So Trump moved against Senator Cornyn, right? So if you remember the wins he had last week, everyone was saying that AIPAC bought a seat. The Jewish influence got Massey kicked out. Yesterday, Trump got one of the biggest AIPAC endorsed senators out as well. Cornyn was an AIPAC guy the whole time, and he lost yesterday. So not a peep from the retard right as Trump takes down one of the biggest Zionists on Capitol Hill, by the way. So indeed, yesterday, Trump won all over the board in Texas. It was a Trump rout in Texas. Now, let's remember what this rout really does mean. Then we'll get into the rout in a second. But just to give you some of the numbers, here's what we got from the general Senate losses. We've got 4 of the biggest rhinos out of the Senate. And so Cornyn, Tillis, McConnell, Cassidy, all of them out, and it's not getting better for the sludge people. Trump's endorsement scorecard is a perfect 8-0. He won 8 U.S. House, 101 endorsed. He won 101 U.S. Governors, 8 for 8. U.S. House, 101 for 101. And U.S. Senate, 9 for 9. Ken Paxton, who won the race to be the next senator of Texas, was outspent $9 trash tokens to 1. The GOP being anti-Trump is career suicide. Indeed, here, Prof. St. Onge says the same thing. No U.S. senator lost a primary since 2012. Republican voters just did 2 in 10 days. Voters are done with rhinos who pretend to fight while feathering their nests. And you can see a few more of these about Cornyn and what it means going forward as well. Here, Joe Lang says, anybody living in Texas knew Cornyn would get beat by Paxton. The Bush dynasty has thrown everything they can think of at Paxton, trying to destroy him. So did Obama. Nothing worked. Paxton is a bulldog, and Cornyn never stood a chance. Cornyn was going to win, and the Trump endorsement made it a blowout. Rhinos are quickly becoming an endangered species in Congress. Even a 9-1 spending advantage had no effect. Trump controls the Republican Party, and everyone knows it. The American people are going to support those who are helping Trump and remove those who are hindering him. It's really that simple. It isn't even about politics anymore. And many of these cases talking about the same thing. The GOP spent 100 million U.S. trash tokens on John Cornyn just to see him lose to Ken Paxton by 30 points. Americans are done with amnesty. Americans are done with visa abuse. Realize where we are. And it's just more of these stories about how much he won by. Let's not forget as well that Trump is so unpopular. The flagship GOP state is about to dump a 4-term incumbent for his choice by 30 points. So if you are starting to get a hint that oh, I'm back. Okay, good. I'm back. I don't know what that was, guys. Let me just look at my. Yeah, we're fast. Should be okay. Should be okay. So here's another one about what's going on. Republican primary voters do not care about your principles. They do not care about your deep personal convictions. They do not care how concerned you are. They care about two things and two things only. Has Donald Trump left? That's it. Nothing else matters. Which candidate meets those two criteria, and you'll be able to predict the winner of a GOP primary about 90% of the time. And let's not forget the context of the uniparty here. Thune sacrificed 5 senators to avoid passing the SAVE Act. Didn't he? Isn't that exactly what happened? Didn't he like literally choose this kind of loss because winning this way would be unacceptable to them? What does that tell you about the voting system and what a scam it is? And it's not Republicans, the uniparty piece, they're gonna capitulate. And the other end of the uniparty, the Democrats, so there is a civil war inside of the Republican Party, right? There's a civil war inside of the Republican Party. And it was, some people call them the Panicans. You can call it the Libertarians, or, we don't need to be combative about everything. People are aligning with sides. So, that's what's happening. That's the human mind. I can't give people heck for being human. Just as I said before, I try to find people that say similar things outside of my, or are able to have opinions outside of my echo chamber to make sure I'm not falling down an echo chamber too much. But seeing the and because you get aligned with your team, right? So that's part of it. So civil war on the Republican side looks like it's over. I can't imagine. I mean, they can go to the Libertarians, which is fine. I don't think that's going to hurt Trump. On the Democrat side, there's also a civil war, though, right? We can see it. It's the old deep state apparatus. It's the Obamas on one side, and on the other side, you have the AOCs and all of these social Democrats. And that civil war is raging. And Maine yesterday already saw a bit of a difference. Richard Grinnell saying here that Democrats now in this civil war with Plattner, the Nazi tattoo guy, getting the nomination in Maine. Some Democrats saying that they're not going to be happy if he loses Maine. They're not going to cry tears. Democrats abandoning Maine. So the civil war will have bigger effects on the Democrat Party, I think, than the Republicans. The Republicans getting over their civil war, the Democrats just entering their civil war. Other good news from the sweep yesterday, the 21-year Democrat swamp creature Al Green has lost his congressional seat in Texas. They did the redistricting and they got rid of this guy. He's the guy with the cane all the time, right? So, there's one for the plan trusters. That's over. So now go back to the uniparty question and the Civil War. And let's not forget that Cornyn was one of these big one of these big free trade guys. He wants open borders on trade. He is a record stating he wants 0 tariffs. Tonight, Texas will choose tariffs plus prosperity by choosing Trump-endorsed Paxton. Here he is this is the tariff man, a good account. I'll follow him right now. I didn't know I wasn't following him. this guy's always covering Trump's tariffs from geopolitical point of view, domestic point of view, politics point of view, and he's a constant antagonist of Trump on tariffs, and that is the Texan. So seeing this constant antagonist on tariffs, seeing this fella here who's been part of this uniparty architecture. Now, again, what we heard from Cernovich that the price of these folks losing was great, and they were willing to pay for it, right? They were willing to pay. They don't want Save America. They don't want voter ID. What else is it, right? The uniparty has tremendous advantages, and one of them is in this trade sphere. You can see already the Canadian situation. I mean, that's what Mark Carney has been fighting for years, right? Mark Carney has been a China agent for years. He has been and now he's going to be negotiating the tariffs again for the United States because the free trade agreement is up, let's say, right? So I thought I had one more here on, but maybe I don't. Yeah. So yeah, here's this is the kind of uniparty person that they've been supporting all these years, right? Go back to China and find out. We talked about Balaji and the China influence. Here's a video about all the stuff that Mark Carney in Canada has been doing for CCP and the Chinese. Remember, he went there and called it the New World Order. London said they just wanted the business. Carney helped the CCP bring state power straight into Western banks, trading, and the entire financial system. He's been a Chinese cheerleader since day one. And he's out there trying to renegotiate his free trade with America, and it's not going so well. This is what's going on in Canada now. So uniparty losing all around the world, separatist movements, MPs revolting, tech companies threatening to pull their services from the country, FBI investigating and making arrests for extortion rings in Canada, USMCA on the brink. Mark Carney is a complete mess. This is him yesterday trying to talk about the Alberta secession referendum. Now, he says here, he mixes two things. So he's both correct and wrong, and I'll explain.
Is 50 plus 1 enough?
No, it is not. It is not. For under a Clarity Act, it is absolutely not. And I would just recommend that you read the Clarity Act. It's very clear. Not surprisingly, the Clarity Act is very clear. Determination, and there's a series of conditions which I responded in the House for the record.
Is 50 plus 1 enough?
A very clear.
Is 50 plus 1?
So he's talking here about separation with Alberta. The Clarity Act in Canada, unlike the American Clarity Act, which is all about Bitcoin, and Clarity Act in Canada is all about secession referendums. So the big issue right now is the 50% plus 1 threshold. So here, with the referendum happening on October 19th in Alberta, you've got Mark Carney saying under Clarity Act, the secession referendum has to be more than 50% plus 1, which is true. That is true. Okay, so he's right about that. So Mark Carney saying that in Canada, including Quebec, 50% plus 1 is not enough to separate is entirely true, right? So if you see anyone today saying Mark Carney doesn't understand the Clarity Act, you're wasting your breath. He has that right, okay? So it isn't 50% plus 1. It never has been. It's more like 55, right? 55 would do it. Now, where he's wrong is that the question they have on October 19th is not a secession question purely. It's about whether or not we just straight up stay in Canada with Alberta, or we have another referendum, which is the same trick Quebec has used. That's how Quebec has designed its question twice. Do you want to have a referendum is more or less the question. Do you really want to separate? Yes or no? And not do you want to separate? Do you really want to start separating is kind of what the question is. That's what Quebec did both times. Do you really want to start separating? Yes or no? And Alberta copied that method. It's not, do you want to separate? Yes or no? Do you want to start separating? Yes or no? Under that world, it's not really a Clarity Act question. So that is 50% plus 1. So the question as it is 50% plus 1. The question that it's asking for, do you want to start the process and then another referendum? that one wouldn't be 50% plus one. It would be more like 55. You can't just do a 50% plus one vote and leave the country. It doesn't make any sense. You need a clear majority is what the Clarity Act says. And so Mark Carney is 100% correct. So don't fall for any of these, he doesn't respect democracy, blah, blah, blah. That all might be true, but in this case, he's correct. This is the right interpretation of the law, but it's the wrong application of the law because the referendum is not a Clarity Act referendum. It's not a pure referendum to leave. Like I said, it's more like a referendum to start a referendum to leave. Politics makes to do it that way. That can, if they lose, they can still retreat like Quebec over and say, no, it was a referendum. No, you're not paying attention. So that's what is going on with that. So Mark Carney, not completely out of his mind, just a little bit out of his mind. So other bad news for Mark Carney's government yesterday. As you saw in that note, there was a whole bunch of tech companies threatening to pull their services from the country. One of those tech companies you heard from yesterday was Apple. Apple was asked to testify about encryption yesterday in Canada. Here they are in the House Committee on not sure what, probably legal affairs. Here, Bill C-22. This is the no VPNs, no encryption, all of that stuff. Maybe the last times we're permitted to discuss consequences. This is from Apple, right? We can't even talk about this stuff. That's because the bill's secrecy provisions forbid companies like Apple from even discussing the orders we receive with our users or the public. So here, this fella giving Apple, it's the Public Safety National Security Committee, giving the Canadian government a hard time about that law. And so just another thing, the censorship industrial complex in Canada, not going to make it either. So, and remember the all eyes and this whole, so go back to Trump, right? And again, you got the G's, we see all this world changing energy, Bitcoin, Trump rearchitecting all of that, China with its own troubles. We're seeing energy flows, all of that changing. Domestically, Trump winning the civil war against the Panicans. Now the international bloc. So the same folks that the unity that Trump beat in Texas are aligned with. That's the Cornyn's and the Democrats and all these folks. And so now you can see that one of the biggest nodes in the industrial complex, Canada, is suffering and failing because only ways of succeeding are with the censorship. And you've got Apple coming in and saying, not going to work with us. And you've got Alberta trying to separate from the country, but they don't have a culture, so they can't. They're not allowed. If you remember all of that from the NPC news. So the censorship thing isn't working, and they're going to keep trying. You see over in Europe more of it, right? Germany's state media regulators are preparing new rules that could force platforms like X, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram to have greater visibility to trusted or reliable media outlets in their algorithms. And of course, the proposal is being framed as a way to combat misinformation and protect media plurality. The plans are unfolding alongside a broader EU drive to tighter online regulation under the Digital Services Act. Mike Benz warning everyone, I cannot stress enough how important it is to nip this in the bud by whatever diplomatic, economic, or sanctions means are necessary. Doesn't look like it's going to work. Bad news, too, out of Europe. More bad news on the censorship front. Again, this is all they have, though. They've only got the censorship. This guy here, this is something we used to have in Canada, then we got rid of it, and then we brought it back. And it's this guy here, Dries van Langenhove. A very sad announcement. I have just been convicted a second time for hate speech, and is only due to a technicality that I could not immediately be sent to jail to the judge's frustration. And here, the whole thing is about likely to incite. I won't read the whole thing, but Ava Vander Vlardingerbroek figures it out here and says the following: Dries has just been convicted again, this time for speaking the truth about the disastrous consequences of mass migration. The most insane part is that the Belgian court even admitted Dries spoke the truth, but what he said was factual, but deems it a crime because it could incite hatred. That was how it used to work in Canada. Under the Harper government, we got rid of that, and they brought it back, of course, under Trudeau. And so that's what we got. They're criminalizing the truth, and they're using Dries to set an example. Let's come together to help him. Dries is a young father, a brave patriot, and a Belgian establishment has been trying to destroy him for years. He's taken so many hits, he really deserves our help, and hopefully he gets it. We would love that. So the rest of the thing, though, is all of these sludge people in Europe, they can try with the censorship, but they themselves are falling apart. And here's Pedro Sanchez. Some people call him Dirty Sanchez. He's the prime minister of Spain. His office was raided by the police, apparently the anti-corruption police in Spain. They broke in, looked into his stuff. He's got a minority government, and they're facing growing pressure. Pedro Sanchez is fucked, according to Joey Manarino. All of this is coming out from the American government after the Venezuelan raid, and with Maduro in custody, find out his entire through sanctioned funds from which could be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to that. We like fun things like that, right? Here, I gotta cut a few pages out here. So, not going great in Canada, not going great in Germany, not going great in Holland, not going great in Spain. So with that fraud investigation that you're seeing, that fraud thing is radicalizing people all around the world, seeing this fiat corruption and the money being stolen. And it's one of the things that cuts through political tribes, because no one likes getting their stuff stolen and seeing people's tax money get stolen. Now in Europe, they're poor, so they don't pay as much tax because no one makes money. They all get money. And so probably will affect them a little less, but in America, of course, it's a big deal. And that's why here you see the story continues to metastasize. Like I've been saying, Miller doesn't miss Miller yesterday with the vice president talking about fraud and how bad it is. Stephen Miller says the scale of welfare fraud is so massive that eliminating it alone could balance the entire federal budget. The amount that has been fleeced from us is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. We could balance the federal budget, he says, if the only dollars that went out of the Treasury went to individuals who were properly, lawfully, correctly eligible to receive them. This should infuriate every taxpayer. And indeed it is. It's one of the biggest changes on the whole political spectrum this year. Fraud is completely persuasive because people hate getting money stolen from themselves. And once you activate that sort of selfish gene, you can overcome a lot of partisan brainwashing, and you see it around the board. And the whole, just like we heard from Mike Benz, this architecture of deceit, how the NGOs work and the fraud. And like I said, it's going to be every day. You're going to hear more about this. This is a story that just continues to write itself every single day. And that is why it's an important story, because it just keeps popping up and isn't going to stop. And everything can be filtered through it, right? We saw yesterday this big riot breaking out in ICE Newark, right? The ICE Newark facilities. So even before I talk about the fraud, something funny happened at it. It was really hilarious. As tension was rising there, two brown guys, so they're there before, two brown guys just walked out of ICE Newark facility only to find out that they work there. Just amazing. So that's pretty good stuff. We like to see that. So a bunch of these brawls broke out yesterday, right? ICE Newark, rioters, not sustainable. Here, Data Republican says the top goal in any color revolution is to provoke violence and create martyrs. I guarantee many NGOs were behind the training and radicalization of those rioters. The Trump administration needs to understand it cannot simultaneously be effective and win the narrative. The game is rigged against them always, but they can expose the NGO industrial complex to this. And we're seeing it more and more. That thing yesterday, both these folks here, Oilfield Rando and Fisher King, picked up on this here. Understand that these are tryouts, he says, for the NGO industry. The folks up front monologuing are minor league nonprofit activists auditioning for a spot in the major leagues. 6-figure revenue subawards recipients trying to join the 7 to 9-figure revenue prime award recipients. Here, Fisher King says, this is probably true. I remember when people would claim that Antifa rioters were the shock troops of the regime. I was skeptical because I couldn't see how that would work. But it may be the government money finds its way to NGOs, which funnels the money to other entities with anodyne names like People for Justice or something like that. And the money then pays for the rioters. They need organization sticks, all of which they seem to have, and someone has to pay for it. So cut the money and you're going to cut all of the business model. You're going to cut the incentives, and the NGO fraud complex falls apart pretty quick after that. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think the fraud investigations are having an effect on this. I think it's difficult for people to continue to create this. You got to have job promotions, right? You got to have a new NGO that has more money that you got recruited to. There's got to be a minor league and a major league. And that's one of the issues. But even the major league is drying up. I mean, look at this, the Hassan Piker question, right? Hassan Piker has to go and do his testimony about the money he got from NGOs going to going to Cuba. And so he just admitted it, right? He just came out straight up and said, yeah, like I'm a foreign agent, more or less. And of course, seeing the NGO cash and all that stuff work the way it does, you're just sort of telling on yourself. Here, I'm going to be honest with you, Hassan actually is an IQ of 85. He's a really stupid person. He makes Will Stancil look like Einstein. And here, Oilfield Rando says, Democrats openly said they lost because they don't have podcast bros, and they poured mountains of cash and influence and PR capital into a boilerplate, animal-abusing trust fund baby who is barely smarter than a Somali. He's just a shitty candy bar and an expensive rapper. And let's remember here, Nick Carter says, Virgil Griffith was sentenced to 63 months in prison for giving a single talk at a conference in North Korea about generic cryptocurrency topics. Do you know I interviewed Virgil Griffiths just before he was arrested? So I know him. One of the damnedest things ever as well happened to me. I'll try to show you. I don't understand. I think I mentioned on this show at some point, but I'll say it quickly. Don't know why that any of this happened, but I was a couple of years ago looking around at a map in Toronto, looking for some venues by the convention center. And so remind me if I ever did this, guys, if I ever showed it. I think I did. I was so shocked by it. And so here, you're going to see, whoops, that's not what I want. Nope, get out of here. So here you're going to see Rogers Center, right? That's the CN Tower right here. So this venue right here, the Metro Convention Center South, it's like a little glass atrium thing. So I was thinking about renting this. And it had one of these event venue tags on it. And so this would have been 3 years ago, 4 years ago even. I clicked on this tag. Now it's since been erased and the pictures are gone. But the tag that used to be there, because it's not exactly the convention center, which is like over here somewhere, right there, the convention center one. So it was this other one attached to it. And it had about 4 pictures uploaded into the system, right? So you go here, you click on it, then you see the photos, right? You can always see the photos, reviews about, anyway, there's photos somewhere. Here they are, right? All these photos, and when I was looking at them 4 years ago, there were maybe 4 photos in it total. One of the pictures was me and Virgil Griffith. And we weren't at that venue, which I will never understand. I don't understand it. Like I was randomly looking at pictures of a venue I was going to rent, and suddenly there was a picture of me with Virgil Griffith, the guy who was arrested for North Korean espionage. What? So I'll never quite understand it. Virgil Griffith's a great guy, by the way. He got out of jail. Nothing wrong with him other than his love. But there you go. So a lot of people picking up on Hassan Piker's exposure now, in which he admits he's a foreign lobbyist for communist governments on stream without filing as a foreign agent under the FAR Act. Open and shut. Paul Manafort got 8 years for doing this. So not going to work out. And all of this, the podcast thing, right? Like what we heard, the podcast thing, all this podcast, they put all this money into it, right? From Oilfield Rando, how to our own Joe Rogan, right? That's not going to work. Their other thing that they go for is this, like with Plattner, that they're just average guys, right? Smart stuff. It's not populism, right? So here talking about populism. The Graham Plattner, he's just an oyster man, right? He's an oyster man. It's not populism, it's cosplay populism, not intended to actually appeal to men, but to get liberal donors to believe you can appeal to men to get small dollars, create short-term enthusiasm nationally, not locally. The Beto playbook. But none of this works. So just less persuasion coming from these folks. Podcast thing's not going to work. And indeed here, this question, activism is an engineered dead end for young people, according to Walter Kern, who would otherwise be getting in the game, and for boomers who already won it and are concerned with the ultimate luxury good, moral superiority. So just like we heard, the NGOs who have a career path and a ladder, that's getting broken. The whole I'm a better person thing is falling apart really quickly because of the fraud as well. And then the luxury good, of course, of the boomers doing it, the moral superiority, that is also getting rugged. So the incentive model to create more sludge people falling apart really, really quickly. And you can see why this whole realignment is becoming more and more obvious. The fraud, the stealing, the arguments, the schism in American politics, the new fault lines that are coming through are becoming too obvious and are polarizing people even more. This case, this example in California all the time. So now this first question here with fraud, right? Going back to the NGOs and what's going on in the prisons. This one is now growing in scandal. It's the iPad stuff. Christopher Rufo out earlier this month, we report that California prison inmates using state have explicit video chats and groom minors. Now the House Oversight Committee is demanding documents from Newsom. This is a scandal. Not getting any better for Newsom, of course. No successor in sight. Continues to be Republicans leading the field. Yesterday, they had another one of their debates. California's governor candidates were asked if truck drivers should be able to read road signs. Most of them said no. Anyone who believes truck drivers don't need to understand road signs is a moron. I go through their answers, so you don't have to. So that's what's happening. And that's why even you see Spencer Pratt leading into the fraud case, just like everybody else. So Spencer Pratt going hard on fraud here. You see people ask me, just like Miller said, we could probably balance the budget if we get rid of the fraud. Here you've got Pratt doing it as well. We have the money. It's just being stolen. You want to fix the budget and the fraud, I will bust the scammers and put your tax dollars back to work for you. This is in complete and total alignment with what's going on with the wider shifts in the party. That's why all of this stuff seems to be working for Spencer Pratt. And going back to fake populism that you see from Beto and from Plattner, right? Pratt has the real thing. NBC News goes to one of his block parties yesterday in LA. And what do they find? They find that exact same demographic that we see them trying to cultivate for Beto and the others, low income area. They thought it would all be Democrats. People show up, it's all just normal working class folks. Pratt doing real well, raising from a lot of small donors for that reason. And you can still see this stuff coming to fruition. No, I want to keep that one. And that's why they're even noticing, right? Of course, Joe Rogan's talking about a lot. Spencer Pratt is making waves in the LA mayor race, like tsunami ones. People across the nation who otherwise would have no idea there was even an election out here are aware and paying attention. Attention is the first piece of persuasion, and that's why it's working, right? He's doing some amazing things out there, and his campaign is indeed brilliant, as we've been talking about for a while. That's why you're seeing these surges, right? Why is Republicans surging in deep blue Los Angeles? Because crime has become the issue where voters trust Republicans far more than Democrats. And even many Democrats are begging their party to change course. Will Los Angeles finally reject decades of failed leadership? Looks more and more like it. These fraud investigations, all of it's going great. And here's another one. He's going after the NGO fraud that's creating trouble. Fraud was always related to election fraud, which we've covered here extensively all the time from the beginning, that they're almost the same story, right? You get the NGO fraud to get more fake electors, and then you do some election fraud to get more NGO money, to get more of the fiat fraud cycle to run around. So yesterday we saw a new Karen Bass ad from Spencer Pratt making fun of all of this at once, the NGO fraud and the voter fraud. So I'll play this video. It's excellent stuff, really funny stuff.
For mayor of Los Angeles. Oh, come on, man.
We don't have no ID, but we're voting for you, Karen.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of our friends who are here.
Neighbor friends.
For his campaign, and we're giving free tacos to see here. But the most important thing that you can do is to make sure. Now, who are you going to vote for, my little Mexican friend?
What is tu nombre again? Lo siento.
Give me that taco back next. Come get you some. Well, screw you. Hey, amigos, margaritas on me. Vote for me, Bass. Everyone is welcome. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not voting.
We're not voting
for you. I'm voting.
And together. Borders will be open. The only borders that will be up are those of our business stores during peaceful protests. I'm gonna get you. I'm
not voting for you.
I'm gonna buy button to get you on you.
Hey.
Get you some. Get fucked up. Well, screw you then. Hey, you need to vote for me.
I don't have my ID, but I want a free taco.
Well, let's dance then.
Not going her way, right? Not going her way. Here's she did manage to get an endorsement yesterday, though. She got an endorsement from Samuel L. Jackson. Here it is. Now, just look at this persuasion. This is nothing but persuasion. He did a great job.
These are the times we need someone.
Make sure the audio is coming through. Look at this.
These are the times we need someone who understands government, who also understands the needs of the people. Someone who will go in the streets and gather the people together, not someone who will divide them. Karen Bass is that person. Karen Bass. These are the times we need someone who understands government, who also understands the needs of the people. Someone who will go in the streets and gather the people together, not someone who will divide them. Karen Bass is that person. Karen Bass for mayor.
Yeah, she's gonna win. Way to go, Sam Jackson. Way to go. Here's her defending herself, and this is really high quality.
Well, the LA that I grew up in, first of all, was a lot cleaner.
This is really her.
There were not people sleeping on our streets. The city was actually affordable. You could rent an apartment, work part-time, and go to school. So it was a lot different. And I am so hopeful, though, because our city has grown to be such an international city, and I love that. Everybody in the world lives here.
So you can't have
and our
safety,
city is much more diverse than it was
you
before.
get diversity.
Many more people, but unfortunately, the city isn't affordable now, and we do have people sleeping on our streets, which is exactly why I ran for mayor, because I know how our city can be, and we're going to get there again.
The
LA that I grew up in, first of all.
It's a 0. She's not going anywhere. And of course, here you get the Rolling Stone. This is what they got, right? Pratt is a quintessential American. His entire life has been fueled by an unfathomable level of self-confidence. Yes, of course, I would prefer my mayor to be a blithering, self-conscious, nervous wreck. Isn't that what you want? Isn't that what we all want? A loser who can't actually hold their hands straight. They're so worried. I want someone who's like this all the time, right? Who wants someone with an unfathomable level of self-confidence running anything? Who wants them leading, right? We like our leaders stupid, dumb, nervous. It's much better that way. And yeah, the fake news is not going to be able to hold this in. Of course, here you see Raman says she's running for mayor because LA is headed in the wrong direction. She's been running LA since like 2021 government, calling people names, saying outrageous things. They say here everywhere. It's a conspiracy. He's modeling himself after Trump, and I don't think that works in the city of LA, says Democrat political strategist Gary South. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So we'll see. Things that are going to work, though, this is the kind of marketing that does work. So this is someone having fun with the SEC football and talking about AOC's video sheet about the thing the other day. This is great. Time for North to pull up. It's not going well. It's just not going well. So what you're going to get from the next few months now, we've got just a few minutes left here. Based on this, on the level, based on what we're seeing out of California, based on what we're seeing internationally, based on what we're seeing from this change around the world, the Democrats, the fraud investigations, and everything that we see with Bitcoin, realigning government with money and energy production and all of those things. It shouldn't be a surprise that prediction that I made, that once all of this stuff with Iran and this China and the realignment into basically two funnels. So you've got AOC and Hassan Piker and the Doomers and all these people trying to go with their storylines and sell them. Meanwhile, you're going to have Trump for the next few months selling energy, selling energy abundance, low gas prices. But more importantly, and this is what I said would happen, you're going to see Trump move on the season of accountability and moving against all of these deep state folks. And so what did Trump do yesterday? He is now straight up posting from multiple accounts, from Department of War, from True Social, and from others. He's just straight up reposting all the Q stuff. So he's just coming out and doing it. So you get this one. You'll love how this movie ends from his account. You get this one yesterday also from his account with the large Q on it. Game over, deep state. All of this coming exactly when the uranium seems like it's being repatriated. You get this from the Department of War. Patriots in control, and more of this stuff. So just multiple messages about that. That's why you got to think about what's happening over the next few weeks, few months. Here's Real as Fuck Patriots saying Tulsi is going to unleash hell on earth for the deep state before she leaves. And just look at what you're going to see over the summer. What she has to drop over the next 34 days is going to be so explosive. On the 2020 election theft, CrowdStrike, Seth Rich, Uranium One, DNC server, Clinton Obama administration hiding email servers, the selling of classified info tech to our enemies on COVID origins, lockdown, vaccine lies, Russiagate, and then she may retreat from public life. Don't know about that. I do suspect she will have a tremendous amount of support if she decides to come back. And the good news here, here is Mike Benz starting to get viral and getting trending. This is Mike Benz tying John Brennan, who has that case going on that will be related to Tulsi Gabbard in Florida, tying John Brennan to 9/11. I think he is going to sing. We played this video before, but you can start to see where all this stuff is coming from. So I'm mentioning this because it's the first time I've seen a 9/11 video in a few weeks. Getting shared online. I think you're going to keep seeing it, and we'll keep getting to the bottom of that story. This is another one on deep state stuff. I didn't even know about this. This was on Christmas Day 2020. Apparently a building blew up by an RV exploding in Nashville, and they've still have not rebuilt it. Remember when some dude detonated a sophisticated RV bomb in downtown Nashville next to some very expensive telecom stuff after warning people to flee, and it was out of the news before midnight. Christmas Day, good day to hide it. But that looks like a crazy story, and maybe we'll find out more. Who knows? Maybe that's getting seeded now because we need more info. I know where to get more info, though. I have someone who can help us with some more info. It's Hank. Hank is here. What info are we missing?
Oh, better late than never. Sorry about the delay this morning.
Everyone's delayed. Everyone's delayed.
I
was delayed. The show before me was delayed. It's okay.
One of those days. It's live programming. You know, it happens sometimes. It happens. We got a lot going on today. You and I to talk about. There was that cave rescue mission that just happened, which is pretty nuts. Trump has the cabinet meeting that we're going to be tuning in live at some point today when that actually goes on air.
Yeah, okay,
Maybe
great.
we'll see an end to this war. And I'm super excited too. We have a story that just came from Wall Street where they are actually predicting the highest gas prices on record this year and throughout the rest of the year based on how things are going. I know I'm going to be excited to talk with you about it. There's a lot going on today. What were you guys talking about on the Great Awakening?
Well, we were doing a bit of a look at China, just looking at what everything that's happened in the past couple of weeks. What does it mean for China right now? A lot of comment on China yesterday, and I brought it up as well because Balaji was talking about China. He got in a fight with a Roman helmet guy the past couple of days. It didn't go well.
What's
for
a Roman helmet guy? That's just the guy
He's
wearing
just
one of
an
those
account.
Centurion helmets. Is that it?
Yeah, it's just an account. Roman helmet guy, and so they were having a bit of a tussle. We talked about that, and then we related that tussle to the primaries last night. The Trump primaries in Texas. Trump ran the board again, so I guess he's 101 for 101 with House, 8 for 8 governors, and 9 for 9 senators.
And that was Paxton, right? It was Paxton, the guy.
By 30 points. Yeah, by 30 points.
It's funny how that worked. Wasn't he just trashing him like a year ago?
No, he loves Pat. It's Thune he was always trashing. Not Thune. I mean, maybe, yeah, but you know, Trump goes with that stuff. It's all wrestling. You're a friend.
Whichever way the wind's blowing.
You're a friend. You're an enemy. No, his real problem though was he'd put an ultimatum up for them. If Thune and Cornyn didn't give him SAVE Act, the voter ID thing, then he was not going to endorse the incumbent, in this case, Cornyn. Cornyn spent, I think, 9-1. I think they spent 9-1 compared to Paxton, but Paxton won because you know.
Yeah, is the big guy. I get it. Well, listen, I'm gonna let you wrap up. I know we're running a little behind schedule today, but I'll see you on our show in just a bit. So see y'all.
See you later, Hank. Peace. Okay, folks. Let's see what folks are saying in the chat, and then we're out of here. Nothing to do with Bitcoin, though. I'm not sure what that means. Tell me, DOU. Sometimes we talk about Bitcoin. Sometimes we talk about the news. Silly Nolan, tricks are for kids, indeed. We like tricks. The Obraham Records. Obraham. The Obraham. I don't know why we call them the Obraham Accords, Bapeth. Thanks for turning us on to Promethean Pod. It's great, huh? What's up, P-Man? Glad you made it. Let's see what folks are saying over here. And Chino, coffee and laughs, friends in the morning. What could be better? Chatelet all. What do you mean by my thing sounded like popcorn? It's not my voice. It's the mic, right? My voice sounds fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with my voice. California's a basket case. It sure is. Listen to Adam Carolla. He has the hookup on politics. He's also very funny. Humor really helps in these desperate junctures. We love Adam Carolla. He's always been funny. Always a good time. Trump's two main goals, fixing our elections and our money, says Lance 2002. Thought so. Narwhal Tacos. Cat is in the chat. Never mind. Maybe. NMM. High fuzziness now returning absolutely unacceptable. 100%. He going to need a brain first, so we'll hold the amyloid. Chopping and fuzzy. Rhino hunting is a thing. Indeed, there's some rhino hunting going on. China has only ever had one resource, cheap labor, and they lost that more than a decade ago. It looks like it. Yeah, I once got caught when I went to check out the 2008 Olympic Stadium getting built. I was there in 2004 in Beijing, and I went late at night, and I got caught in the shift change between the workers on the stadium. One of the most surreal experiences of my entire life. Like thousands of Chinese guys all headed in one way and thousands headed the other way. And I'm completely caught in the middle, much taller and standing out from all of them. And I mean, they built that thing with hand tools, man. I'm telling you, hand tools. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, how do you build a stadium with hand tools and bamboo and shit? Like, it was wild. All right, folks, we're getting ready for Hank's show. So I will say adieu indeed. One more comment here. One of the fights at the White House, supposedly Abraham Lincoln had an astounding career as a professional wrestler with a record of 300 wins to 1 loss. Yeah, that's what I mean, I was a big Abraham Lincoln biography reader, and indeed he was a big wrestler. He had an amazing, I think probably the strongest physical president we've ever had. And he did all kinds of feats of strength and did indeed like wrestling with the soldiers. So that's an actual true story. People tell funny stories of him leaping over fences and everything. There you go. All right, folks, that's it. Didn't get to all of your comments. I see it is absolutely filled up there. Lots of comments. Love to see it. We're going to get out of here now. We're going to play the logo followed by the thanks for watching screen. I want to say to you, thanks for watching. Come over and see me on Hank's show. If not, I'll see you tomorrow and we'll be around at the same time. Peace out, everyone. Thanks for coming.